लाडली लाल की। दिवाकरी प्रपन्नाहम् गुरु पादा रविन्दयोः तस्य प्रेरणया तस्य दिव्यादेशम् वदाम्यहम्। मन्नाथः श्री जगन्नाथो मद्गुरुः श्री जगद्गुरुः मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा कृपालु गुरवे नमः। चेतो दर्पणमार्जनम् भवमहा दावाग्नि निर्वापनम् श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनम् प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृता स्वादनम् सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम्। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वम् यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 बरसाने वाली 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 राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 बरसाने वाली 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 राधे बरसाने वाली राधे।
राधे 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 बरसाने वाली राधे।
राधे 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 जय 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 श्री 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 राधे।
राधे 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 मेरी प्यारी राधे।
राधे 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 मेरी प्यारी राधे।
राधे 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 कृपामयी राधे।
राधे 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 कृपामयी राधे।
राधे 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 जय 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 श्री 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 राधे।
राधे 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 बरसाने वाली राधे।
राधे 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 बरसाने वाली राधे।
राधे 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 जय 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 श्री 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 राधे।
राधे 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 बरसाने वाली राधे।
राधे राधे राधे
बरसाने वारी राधा रानी की
जय।
मोहि तो भरोसो है तिहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
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 हाँ जस अधम तुम्हारी एक जानती।
हाँ जस अधम तुम्हारी एक जानती।
और न जान निहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
और न जान निहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
मोहि तो भरोसो है तिहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
मोहि तो भरोसो है तिहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
भुक्ति मुक्ति नहीं मांगत केवल।
मुक्ति मुक्ति नहीं मांगत केवल।
भुक्ति मुक्ति नहीं मांगत केवल।
मुक्ति मुक्ति नहीं मांगत केवल।
अपनो जानी निहारो रे किशोरी राधे।
जानी निहारो रे किशोरी
जाने निहारो रे किशोरी राधे
अपनो जाने निहारो रे किशोरी राधे
मोहि तो भरोसो है तिहारो 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 रे किशोरी राधे
Respected devotees of Sri Maharaj Ji, Radhe Radhe. Viewers, Radhe Radhe. There are three aims of life. Bhukti, mukti nahi mangat keval apno jani niharu re Kishori Radhe. नित सेवा मांगू श्यामा श्याम तेरी न भुक्ति नाही मुक्ति मांगू मैं बाढ़े भक्ति निष्काम नित मेरी न भुक्ति नाही मुक्ति मांगू मैं. So there are three aims of life: bhukti, mukti, and bhakti. Two out of these three are dualistic aims: bhukti and bhakti. And one is non-dualistic, and that is mukti. The Vedas describe Gyagyo dva vaja vishanisha vaja Yeka bhoktri bhogyartha yukta anantaschatma vishwarupo yakarta trayam yada vindate brahmametat shveta shvataropanishad. There are three eternally existing entities: God, the individual soul, and Maya. So we, the individual souls, are ignorant. We are suffering. We're in sorrow, misery. We are restless. And we are incomplete. God is all blissful, omniscient, and complete. And Maya is lifeless. But enlivened by God, this world around us is an expansion of Maya. And this Maya, the world rather, has been created for the sake of our physical body. So, the individual soul has a choice. The soul can worship God, or the soul can worship the world. When we worship the world, we are said to be in bhukti. Bhukti. And when we worship God, we are said to be doing bhakti. And thirdly, the individual soul can merge with the absolute truth, Brahma. And that state of attainment is known as mukti. So in summary, aside the individual soul, there remain two entities, God and Maya. So when we go toward God, we can attain mukti, liberation, or bhakti, devotion. And when we go toward the world, then we attain bhukti. So what is this bhukti? Bhukti are the material pleasures of the physical body. The material pleasures. So we have 5 senses of perception, 5 sense organs of perception. Eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and the skin. And related to these 5 senses of perception are their corresponding desires. So the desire to see, the desire to smell, the desire to hear sound, the desire to taste, and the desire to touch. The body, our body, is made of 5 structural elements: earth, water, air, fire, and space. And as such, these 5 organs of perception are also made of these 5 structural elements. The world around us is also made of the 5 structural elements. In fact, the elements that are embedded in the earth are also present within our body. Gold, copper, silver, and so on. Science has proven that these exist within us. We may wonder how this is so. How? So, the food that is grown from the earth, we consume that. Flour, lentils, rice, fruits, such as apples, tangerines, oranges. So the food that we eat, it is converted into juices. Juices converted into blood. Blood into flesh. Flesh into muscle. Muscle into marrow. Marrow into bone. And from bone into sperm. And a similar process also takes place within a woman's body. So, the combination of the woman's sperm and the woman's egg rather, and the man's sperm, what happens? A new body is created within a woman's body. A new body. It is so amazing that such a big body is created by the combination of the egg and sperm, which is the size of perhaps 1/100th of a part of a droplet. So the food that we consume that is grown from the earth is inherently present in the egg and the sperm, and consequently it is also within our body. What a miracle this is, how miraculous this is. So when our body dies, then the soul that entered the body in the mother's womb, through the mother's womb rather, it departs when we die. Then what happens is that the structural elements the body is made of, they merge into their own respective sources. So earth into earth, fire into fire, space into space, air into air, fire into fire. So they merge into their own sources. And same thing with all those elements, such as copper and gold, they respectively copper into copper and gold into gold. And there's no governing body that is overseeing all of this physical. It is all happening very systematically. Very systematically, it's happening. So this is a miracle of God. And our senses, our organs of perception, they are made of the structural elements. They are made of the structural elements, yet our eyes cannot perform the function of our ears. And vice versa, our ears cannot perform the function of our eyes. In other words, we cannot hear with our eyes and we cannot see through our ears. No. And even though they are made of the same 5 structural elements, earth, water, air, fire, and space, and still we cannot do that. Why do you think is that? Why do you suppose that is? Why can't the eyes capture sound just like the ears do? Well, we don't know the reason, but it just happens. But we don't know the reason. We have technology to help us hear better. There are instruments to help us look farther. Yes, that is possible, but there's no technology where the eyes can hear and the ears can see. There's no technology. So it is this miraculous combination of the egg and the sperm that creates different bodies. Different bodies. In fact, every living creature has a set of eyes, and the positioning of the eyes is exactly the same, whether it's a human, donkey, or whoever. A cat or dog, any living creature is exactly the same. The point being that we have 5 senses of perception. 5 senses of perception. And related to these are 5 desires. 5 desires. And all of these are known as the pleasures of our 5 physical senses is known as bhukti. And this bhukti has no relation whatsoever to the soul. To the soul. There's no connection whatsoever. Ajamekam lohit shukla krishnam vahavihi prajah srijamanam sarupah ajo hyeko jushamano nushete jahatenam bhukta bhoga majonyah Shvetashvatara Upanishad. So it is only, bhukti is only about the enjoyer and whatever is being enjoyed. There's no connection, there's no affiliation with the divine soul whatsoever. So people who are ignorant, people who identify themselves with the body, they are inclined toward bhukti or material pleasures. They're inclined toward material pleasures, and of course, all of us sitting here have been no exception to this. In our pursuit for happiness, we have time and time and time again gravitated to material, sensual gratifications. We have. But our scriptures tell us that the pleasures that we experience from all of these material things and gratifications and sensual things is insignificant. It is insignificant. Why? Because material happiness is not confined to this material earth planet that we're living on. There are 10 more levels of higher and higher superior material bliss in an ascending order, culminating in Brahmalok. Brahmalok. So the Vedas tell us, Saisha nandasya mimansa bhavati yuva syad sadhu yuva dhyayakah ashishto dradhishto balishto tasyayam prithvi sarva vittasya purna syad sa eko manush anandah. So there is a man who is the emperor of the entire earth planet. He is in the prime of his youth, virtuous, learned, intelligent, has his subjects favorable toward him, and he possesses all the wealth. So that could be considered the greatest happiness of this material earth planet. But beyond this material earth planet, millions of times the happiness, the combined happiness of this material earth planet is the happiness of Manav Gandharva Lok. Millions of times the happiness of Manav Gandharva Lok is the happiness of Dev Gandharva Lok. Millions of times the happiness of Dev Gandharva Lok is the happiness of Pitralok. And millions of times the combined happiness of Pitrilok is the happiness of Ajanaj Devalok. And beyond that is the happiness of Karma Devlok. And millions of times the happiness of Karma Devlok is Devlok. And millions of times the happiness of Devlok is Indralok. And millions of times the happiness of Indralok is Brihaspati Lok. And beyond that is the happiness of Prajapati Lok. And beyond that, culminating in Brahmalok. So this bhukti, these material pleasures, they extend all the way up to Brahmalok. Brahmalok. And so this Maya, the existence of Maya is vast. It is vast. This planet or this planetary system that we are living in is very small. It is 500 yojan according to Sri Maharaji. It is within an area of 4 billion miles. And it has been created by Brahma, who has only 4 mouths, Chaturmukhi Brahma. But there are Brahmas who have 8 mouths, 10 mouths, 1,000 mouths, 100,000 mouths, even 10 million mouths. So the more mouths the Brahma has, the bigger the planetary system. And these planetary systems, according to the scriptures, Sankhya chet rajasam asti na vishwanam kadachana. So, the scriptures tell us that we, even if we can, it may be possible to count the grains of sand on earth, but it is virtually impossible to count the planetary systems that exist in the universe because they are countless. So this bhukti, it extends to all the way to Brahma Lok. And while we may think that the grass is always greener on the other side, right? But it is not so. It is our misconception, it is our misunderstanding because lack of fulfillment, peace, and happiness. There's no fulfillment, there's no peace, and there's no happiness, even up to Brahma Lok. Why? Because it is all within the realm of Maya. It is all within the realm of Maya. That is why Shri Krishna says in the Gita, Brahma bhuvana lokah punaravartino arjuna mamu petyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So Shri Krishna reveals to Arjuna that Arjuna, all the abodes from Brahma Lok downward are subject to death and rebirth. There is not a trace of happiness even in Brahma Lok, not even a trace. So unless a soul surrenders to me, he cannot expect to be liberated from the binding ties of Maya. No, only by surrendering to me, Sri Krishna says. So, out of ignorance, we as individuals, we plan. We strive for bhukti. We plan to become million, billion, trillion years, whereas there's not an iota, not even a shred of happiness in Brahma's Lok. A cow experiences the same happiness that a king experiences, relishing all of those delicacies that are offered to him. The experience is the same, although outwardly there seems to be a vast difference. And it is this difference that leads us to believe that perhaps there is greater happiness than what we have received in this life, in this world, in our life. But it is not so. You see, before we acquire anything, our ignorance leads us to believe that we will experience happiness. However, after we receive that object, what happens? We realize that that experience was only momentary. It was fleeting and it was diminishing. That is what we experience. However, we never tire of our unsuccessful attempts, and we're always hoping that happiness is waiting for us just around the corner. A child goes to school and he is always eagerly waiting to finish his education. School education, when he does, then what happens? He thinks, okay, well, it's over, but I know I'll be more happy if I can find a job. Finds a job, then, is that enough? Oh, no, now I need promotion. Now all that competitiveness is going on, even in the workplace, looking for promotion. And then when he gets promoted, is that enough? Oh no, I want further promotions. So there's no end. There is no end. Desires don't end. In fact, Surapatim Brahmam Padam Yachate. Indra desires the seat of Brahma. Even Indra. So desires don't end. In fact, there's a story in relation to this. There was once a king who, despite his luxurious lifestyle, was not happy. He was not content. So one day he stumbled upon a servant who was singing happily while working. So this fascinated the king. And he thought why he, the ruler of the land, was unhappy while a lowly servant had so much joy. So he asked the servant, why are you so happy? So he said, Your Majesty, I'm nothing more than a servant. But my family and I, we don't need much. We don't need much. Just a roof over our heads and some warm food to fill our tummies. That's all. So this answer from the servant did not satisfy the king. So he called upon his most trusted advisor. And after listening to the king's woes and the servant's story, the advisor said, Your Majesty, it appears that the servant has not yet been made part of the Club 99. So the king asked, What do you mean by the Club 99? So the advisor said, Your Majesty, to really truly find out what the Club 99 is, fill a bag with 99 gold coins and leave it at his doorstep. And sure enough, when the servant came home and he found that bag, he brought it inside. When he opened it, he let out a great shout of joy when he found all those gold coins. So what did he do? He started counting them. And he counted them, and he found there was 99, and he counted them several times. And finally, he was convinced that there's only 99 coins. And he wondered, what could have happened to that one coin? What could have happened to that one coin? For sure, nobody would just leave 99 gold coins. So he looked everywhere, but that last gold coin to complete his set was elusive. So then he decided that he was going to have to work harder than ever to complete his set. And then, as soon as he made that resolve, what happened? His life completely changed. He was overworked. You all know that feeling. He was horribly grumpy, yeah? You know that? And he castigated his family for not helping him and supporting him to earn that one coin. And he stopped singing while working. So seeing this drastic transformation, the king again sought the advice of his advisor. And he said, Your Majesty, yes, now the servant has officially become part of the Club 99. So the Club 99 is a name given to those people who have enough to be happy, but they're never content. Because they're striving for that one last thing. Thinking, let me just get this one last thing and I will be happy. And as we strive for that one last thing, what happens? You lose your sleep, offend and hurt people around you, and so much more happens. Why? Because desires never end. They keep growing. They keep multiplying. And so does anxiety and restlessness, agitation, etc. And that's what happens. So, the scriptures say, Trishna te tarunayate. Trishna, vasana, desires are even greater than God. Trishna na jirna vayameva jirnaha. Desires, they never grow old. They rejuvenate themselves. That's what happens. And that's why the Bhagavatam tells us, Yat prithivyam vrihiyavam hiranyam pashavah striyah nalamekasya paryaptam tasmat trishnam parityajet. Bhagavatam. If an individual was to receive all the luxuries and everything, pleasures, even so his desires will keep on growing. It is described in the Vedas, Girir mahan girer abdhir mahan abdhir nabho mahat nabhasopi param brahma tato pyasha duratyaya. Mountains are big. Bigger than the mountain is the ocean. Bigger than the ocean is the sky. Bigger than the sky is God. He is infinite. Yasmat param na paramasti kinchit. God is the greatest. But this Veda mantra tells us that desires are even greater than God. Because even though God is inconceivable, it is very possible to conceive God. Even though God is unknowable, it is very possible to know God. Even though God is unseen, yes, we can see Him. But since eternity up until now, there has not been one person in history, nor will there ever be anyone who has become completely contented after attaining material luxuries and material sensual pleasures of the magnitude of that height of Brahmalok. No, not at all. So this is the extent of bhakti. This is bhakti, material pleasures. In our history, in the Mahabharata, it is described that the mother of the Pandavas, Kunti, she asked Sri Krishna for a very strange boon. When Sri Krishna invited her to ask for a boon, she asked. But what did she ask for? She asked for a boon which I believe none of us would have asked for. So she said, Vipadaha santu na shashvat tatra tatra Jagadguru Bhavato darshanam yatsya dapunar bhavadarshanam. So she said, oh, Sri Krishna, if you wish to give me something, give me lack of worldly luxuries. Because the presence of worldly things and objects, what happens? The heart begins to recede from you. And in the absence of worldly luxuries, the human heart is inspired toward you. So Shri Krishna said, but people ask me, they ask me for worldly things, they ask me for yogic powers, they ask me for liberation, but why do you ask me for this? Why? So she said, my Lord, please don't try to trick me. And then she answered. She said, Janmaishvarya Shrutashri Bhiredhaman Madah Puman Naivarhatsya bhi dhatum vai Tvamakinchana gocharam. So Kunti said that, my Lord, if I receive worldly luxuries and prestige and worldly things, then my pride will grow. My pride will grow. And if my pride grows, I will forget you. I will forget you. And if I forget you, then how will I come close to you? How will I remember you? But if I receive difficulties, suffering and sorrows in my life, then I will realize that this world is full of disappointments and miseries and negativities. And then, inevitably, my heart will turn toward you. And when my heart will turn toward you, I will remember you. And when I will remember you, I will attain you. So, please, do not give me worldly happiness. Give me suffering. How many of us, given the choice, would ask for suffering? So, oh Radha Rani, I do not want bhukti. And I don't want mukti either. So, when the time came for me to talk about mukti, then the clock shows it's 8:30. So, I'm going to have to leave a cliffhanger. Please wait till tomorrow. I shall continue. Thank you. Shrimat Sadguru Sarkar ki, Ladli Lal ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.